All right, so we should be good. All right. What's up? What's up? What's up? What is going on, everybody? This is JanceSports back here again with another live stream this time. Thank you guys so much for joining. Anybody is not that's not going to be here and they want to watch this live stream later, I welcome all. But I see we got Danny, we got Jeremiah, Blue Diamond Gem. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Got a lot to talk about today, guys. We got a lot to talk about today. We got to talk about Oklahoma and Texas, the whole leaving the Big 12, going to the SEC. The Big 12 kind of struggles, rumor mills about Iowa State. Iowa State, Baylor, Kansas State potentially looking elsewhere in the future. Of course, the entire super conference thing, right, with the entire SEC. So like I said, a lot to talk about here regarding that type of stuff. We also got some recruiting stuff to talk about as well. But like I said, guys, this is also a live call-in show. This is your show. So if you guys want to join in, you want to talk to me about some college football, especially about those topics, hit the link. I already put the link right over there, so I'll show it just in case. Hit the link. You can join the StreamYard. We can have a full conversation talking about these topics. So make sure to hit that link if you guys are interested in that matter. But yeah, guys. Oklahoma, Texas, potentially leaving for the SEC. We'll have more updates about it next week. I'm excited for it. Personally, as an SEC football fan, I'm excited for it. I think that honestly, as far as marketing and as far as brand and revenue value, it's going to bring a lot to college football, right? Oklahoma and Texas. Can you imagine the matchups? Oklahoma, Bama. Oklahoma, LSU, Texas versus Arkansas, renewing that rivalry. Texas versus Texas A&M, one of the biggest rivalries in all of college football, which honestly we haven't seen that matchup in such a long time. We are potentially going to get that. Now, the average college football fan, I can completely understand where these guys are coming from because, if two of the biggest brands in all of college football are leaving to go to the SEC, which is a powerhouse, right? The people at Birmingham, the powers that be at Birmingham, have ruled college football for you can make an argument, the last 15, close to 20 years. And to now have two of the biggest brands leave to jump ship, that is huge. And you look at some of the other conferences, right? You look at the non-group of five power conferences, right? You look at the American Conference. You look at the Mountain West Conference. I mean, how many conferences have kind of been destroyed because of the group of five? Remember the WAC? The WAC was killed because of that. You got the Sun Belt Conference that's been struggling for a little bit while. So you got all these non-group of five power conferences that are biting. They're trying to get in, and now to have, a couple other teams joining an almighty SEC power that already has been one of the more controversial, I won't even say one of, they have been the most controversial conference in all of sports, simply because a lot of people believe that the SEC has just gotten away with it. They're too powerful. They have their own network on ESPN. They were the first to kind of have their own network on ESPN, and they generated millions and millions of dollars. On ESPN First Take, they always, not First Take, but on other ESPN platforms, they're always getting the most attention. They're always getting the most talk. They have the best coaches, some of the best facilities. The SEC has generated the most revenue for college football over the last, I think, for 10 straight years now. So this is not looking good for, I would say, some of the other conferences. Now, the Big Ten will survive because I think that, again, you look at Iowa State, Kansas State, honestly, from a regional standpoint, it makes sense for them to kind of jump ship, go to the Big Ten. But they're also a very powerful conference, right? The Big Ten screwed up last year, yet the Big Ten was still generated a crap ton of revenue, even when they played around 6 to 7 games per year. So the Big Ten will survive. The Big Ten has Ohio State, and I don't think Ohio State is going to jump ship anytime. I don't think they're going to jump ship anytime soon. The ACC is one of those conferences that I think can survive because Clemson's there, right? Clemson has become a huge powerhouse for that particular, for the entire landscape of college football over the last decade. And I think that Clemson, even though they're destroying the AC and there really isn't anybody there, you still have Florida State, that's a huge brand name. You still have Miami, that's a huge brand name. And if those two schools can kind of get it back together, the ACC should survive and the ACC should do fine. It's really two conferences. It's the Pac-12 and it's the ACC. Not the AC. It's the Pac-12 and it's the Big 12. Now the Pac-12 has USC there, which is a legendary brand name. You have Stanford there. You have Oregon, which has become one of the kind of the stable trait when it comes to athletic facilities and stuff like that. But at the same time, how many times have the Pac-12 been ignored? How many times, and again, it's not anybody else's but the Pac-12's fault, because when it comes to television deals and stuff like that, I mean, playing at 10:30 at night Eastern Standard Time, I mean, there are games where they're playing at 12 o'clock in the morning for at least my time, 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, and we're already asleep, or we're not staying up to kind of watch those games late. So the Pac-12 has kind of barely survived in its own way, right? They haven't had a team make the college football playoff since 2016 with Washington with the Huskies doing it. So they've kind of struggled in their own way. The Big 12, it's the Big 8 now. So obviously we'll find out. We'll see what happens when it comes to them, but they have to try to figure out if they want to expand. They have to try to figure out if what teams could potentially join them now, because 3-4 years ago you had SMU that wanted to join. You want BYU. We all know they neglected BYU and they said hell no, to hell with you. But BYU was rejected and Boise State was rejected. So now, do you welcome those schools in? Do you welcome a bunch of other teams, even if they're not regional, into your conference to kind of save it there? They got a lot to think about, but those two conferences are kind of struggling. So we could potentially see a Big 3 when it comes to I won't even say super conference, just huge expansions, because really the SEC has been the only premier superpower for the next 3 to 4 years, because they have the biggest brands joining that particular conference. But I'm going to read some comments here. And like I said, guys, if you guys want to join in, and if you guys want to join in the stream here, if you guys simply just want to talk some college football with me live instead of chatting, you guys can definitely do that. Let's see. The link is below the description if you guys want to join the yard. So let's see. We got one coming in right now.
What's up, Jance?
What's up, dog? How you feeling?
Good.
All right. Talk to me, man. How are you? What you feeling about this, man? What you feeling about Oklahoma and Texas? Do you feel like it's good for the sport? Do you feel like it's damaging it, man? How do you feel about it?
Kind of damaging, because if Texas and Oklahoma leave the Big 12, then I don't think that conference will even be alive anymore.
Yeah, man. I completely agree with you, man. It's very similar to how the Big East, man. It's very similar to how the Big East was kind of destructive, because before there was a Power 5, we damn near had close to a Power 6 with the Big East, and now that Oklahoma and Texas, the two biggest moneymakers in your conference, are going to be potentially leaving for the SEC conference, it's just, I don't even know how you're going to survive. Now again, maybe you can pull UCF, maybe you can get SMU or Louisiana Lafayette, or you might have to just go outside your region to pick up a team that's a winning program, but I don't even know if that's particularly gonna survive there.
Yeah, I don't think so. Or they could probably get Boise State or something like that.
Yeah, Boise State is they have a huge name. They do have a little bit of a brand in college football. I don't know, man. I just don't know if it's enough, honestly, to keep them afloat, keep them alive. And I think that I will say this. I think that this is completely going to ruin the playoff landscape. I think how we view the playoffs and how what has to be the criteria. I think that stuff is gone. Like before, it was 5 conferences get a bye. I don't even know if that's particularly going to be the case anymore, because it's the Power 5 conferences. Will the Big 12 even be considered a Power 5 conference now, man?
I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think about this live wire?
Oh man, what's going on? I just subscribed to your channel today because you came through my my feed when I was working on the channel, so I just I just subscribed to you and listen. This is I've been following all of this a little bit more So
Mm-hmm.
I think with Texas and Oklahoma moving to potentially or hopefully end up moving to the SEC, it's going to damage the Big 12's, especially financially,
Mm-hmm.
unless they merge with the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But just like you just mentioned, like the collapse that happened to the Big East when Miami and Virginia Tech left and everything like that, they just kind of like had to revamp themselves and had to like Connecticut and them other small schools and just make it and just change the name. Um, Another thing I was following too, about they was talking about like West Virginia was was in contact with the ACC to possibly join the conference because I think ever since the NCAA had brought up about adding more to the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
this, we just started getting all of this chaos about people, other teams jumping ship or realignment and stuff. I think if they never said anything about a 12 team playoff system, I think everybody probably would have still stayed in the same spot.
Yeah, man. It's just it's they really have to think about what they have to do with the college football playoff now because it's like, dude, 12 teams. You know, you had all this set, you had all this precedent, and then Oklahoma and Texas pulls this one on you, and it's been going on for a while. Like this was not just said, last week. Like they've been talking about this for months, and no one really knew about it besides Oklahoma and Texas and a lot of the teams in the SEC, except for Missouri and A&M. They weren't even notified of it. So,
Yeah,
um, like it's insane, and honestly, it's a smart move. Maybe not for Oklahoma, because I mean, if Oklahoma would have stayed in if Texas would have left and Oklahoma would have stayed in the Big 12, they would have got in regardless because of their
yeah,
name and because of how dominant they are. But this is a smart move for Texas because, Texas, they're rebuilding, but they're trying to. They don't have financial issues. They're one of the richest schools, in the world. But their biggest problem was kind of, I hate to say it, was relevance. Like they weren't really a relevant program. I mean, they had this huge name, but they relied on their history compared to what they've done over the last 10, 15 years in college football. So moving to the SEC, this is going to do wonders for their recruiting. This is going to do wonders for their to bring in new fans, bring in new casual fans that want to follow, which team to bandwagon and where they can spend on money on merchandise and stuff like that. Like Texas is a huge brand name, and to kind of get that rejuvenated back in the SEC while also still competing, and they potentially have an opportunity to make the college football playoff as being the fifth, sixth best team in that conference. It was a smart move, particularly by them. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see other teams try to jump ship into these big time conferences like the
yeah.
Big Ten, like the ACC, in order for them to try to boost their name up, boost their brand.
And another thing too, what I was reading is like I actually I posted I did one about the ACC because I'm a Miami fan, so
Yeah.
but I follow a lot of the teams in different conferences just to keep to see what's going on. And they was talking about like the ACC should try to convince Notre Dame to come in because even though Notre Dame did that 1 year agreement with them and it kind of worked out really well for Notre Dame, West Virginia, it'll help West Virginia because they'll have all their rivalries pretty much back. And
Mm-hmm.
then like UCF, that will be a whole a new way to brand Florida all over, especially when you're trying to do recruiting between Miami, Florida, and Florida State. That would be a good look. And then you can see how well UCF have been playing for the last
Mm-hmm.
few years. So, and then you still got what you're gonna do with a TCU, you know, and then see TCU is pretty much over there in Virginia. They play in Virginia, so that I think so. I'm not sure.
No, they're in Texas. TCU, they're in Texas Christian.
Yeah, so TCU, what you gonna do with them? If you're gonna keep the Big 12, then who you gonna bring in to replace all those teams? How you gonna manufacture them? Like the guy said earlier, like a Boise State and all of that stuff like that. So, or you just Big 12 and the Pac-10 just merge together and just be one big dominant um conference because eventually everybody's going to be realigned and removed all over.
Oh
It's
yeah.
inevitable. It's inevitable. I mean, because money's involved. Everybody's trying to get that TV contract to be more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Notre Dame is still independent, but what's going to hurt them is with the 12 playoff um system that's gonna come about. And if they're independent and you can say that Texas and Oklahoma does play well and they win like 8 games or 7 games and have a chance to, you don't have to even win your conference to make the playoff. So you could have 17 from the SEC making a playoff where you have 5 teams jockeying. You might have 2 or 3 from the ACC or 2 from the Big Ten, and then what's that gonna leave if Notre Dame doesn't have like, because if they stay independent, they play all hard teams. They don't have like small teams, small
Mm-hmm.
like other teams to play. So it's going to hurt them more because if they lose 2 or 3 of them games, it's gonna their chances of making the playoff is going to be harder than it will be if they join the ACC in the conference.
Yeah, no, Notre Dame doesn't. They don't have a choice. They got to join a conference. I think that them being an independent, even though they schedule some pretty good teams, mostly ACC teams, by the way, they mostly schedule ACC teams, which is they should just join the ACC conference regional wise. It makes the most sense, or they can join the Big Ten because they've had a history of scheduling a lot of Big Ten schools in the past until all of a sudden the turn of the decade they schedule a whole bunch of ACC teams and they form rivalries with those particular schools, but they have no choice because
Yeah,
now that we're getting conference realignment and all these other schools are joining these Power Five different conferences. Uh, Notre Dame is not. They're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. I mean, if I was honestly the CFP, if I was honestly one of the voters, if I was one of the judges, the voters, whatever they're called, I would just say, dude, you got to join a conference. If you don't join a conference, you're excluded. You can do whatever you want to do.
yeah,
You can stay independent. You can schedule and you can have your own television deal. Because this was all about the reason why they're not joining a conference is because of money. Is because of their television deal with NBC. You can do that. You can keep it, but you're excluded from the college football playoff.
exactly.
This is only going to form more pressure on them to join a conference, which again, it's a lot of money for them, right? They're a Catholic school. They generate a lot of income. They're one of the best schools in the entire world. But at some point, you know, if you join the ACC, especially with conference realignment, where money is going to play into a huge factor into it, it just makes more sense for you to do it. So the pressure's on them for them to join a conference. I'm very interested to see if what will happen, if they do. But um, you know, as far as some of the other schools too, I think that I don't even think there's going to be pressure on them. I think they're going to join. I think Boise State's been trying to get into a Power Five team. They've been trying to get in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 for years. They've
Yeah,
been denied countless years. BYU's been trying to get into the Big 12. They've been denied that for obvious kind of reasons. Uh, you know. SMU has been trying to kind of leave the American Conference for a while, so it's inevitable for these schools to join. I do agree with you that Central Florida, if they join the ACC conference, I think it would be sweet as hell if they did because the ACC already has this rivalry with Florida State and Miami,
yeah,
and to have another Florida school, which arguably has been the best Florida school out of all the major players like Florida, Miami, and Florida State. You can make an
exactly.
argument record wise they've been the best. So can you imagine the rivalry with Central Florida and Gus Malzahn with that offense versus I was gonna say Dan Enos, but versus Miami versus Florida State and the rich history that's going on there, the battle for Florida, the amount of money that they can make, that the ACC can make alone with ESPN is ridiculous. So I think revenue wise, it makes sense that conference realignment, especially around this time, is going to happen.
Exactly, and that's what I was just about to touch on because the ACC contract right now with ESPN is coming up, and the ACC is they so far behind the Big 12 and the SEC in money wise, and to have a Notre Dame, USC, Central Florida in there, and a West Virginia, it's going to do them phenomenal good.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna put them right back up there. They already got their network, and you don't want to lose that. So you got to go ahead and try to bring these teams in and say, hey, this is especially Notre Dame. You got to say, look, you could keep your TV deal, but you're gonna lose out when the playoffs come. You're not gonna be able to. You're not gonna have that cupcake schedule, where you could get a bye here and there, and then when you will have to constantly play all the time. And they was even talking about bringing asking Navy to come to the ACC, and
Ooh.
then that will be something really good right there. So I mean, it's the landscape is crazy, man. All I can say, we just gotta keep watching it and see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, dude. Can you imagine, like, if Notre Dame joined the AC, like if Notre Dame and Navy joined the ACC conference, those two already they have a bitter rivalry. Can you imagine the Navy Notre Dame amount of revenue shown in the ACC conference if these two play regularly, yearly? I mean,
Yeah,
it would be insane, dude. Just like the amount of revenue that they can produce, right? West Virginia versus Virginia Tech, the battle for the Virginia states, like
yep,
this. It's happening. Like it's gonna happen, and I wish I listen to College Football Nerds and to Josh Pate from 24/7 Sports on Late Kick, and these
yeah,
two have huge disagreements on the conference realignment. They feel like it's going to destroy college football because of how much power the SEC and a lot of the other Power Five conferences have over everybody else. And now
yep,
that you're going to ruin that, you're going to destroy a lot of those universities and their chances of potentially getting in. And the SEC could form into just not only just this super conference, but to form their own mega conference where they don't need anybody else, where they can have their own college football playoff format. And I do see the concerns, but it's gonna happen. It's we can have disagreements and we can protest and we can bitch and moan about it, but it's happening, right? With the players getting their NIL contracts where they can sign with any local, they can have any endorsement that they want to have, right? With the transfer portal being implemented, which, again, I did not think that was a good move for college football. And now that Nick Saban and a lot of these other top universities are starting to get their finger in it, now these other programs are having huge problems with it now, which, again, Nick Saban warned you, like, hey, dude, this is going to destroy college football. This is free agency now. You're creating free agency in college
exactly.
football. Yeah,
And
so
and that's why when Kirby Smart took over for Mark Rick, and knowing when Mark Rick went to Miami, and almost all the players there he recruited, they wanted to come to Miami, and Kirby Smart said no. He blocked it because
hmm
he knew Georgia was going. If all the recruits had left and went to Miami, Georgia would be in a dark. It would be a dark place, and they would have a long. It would have been a struggle to get back relevant. So, and then they wouldn't even have that chance to play like the playoffs and all of that stuff like that. I also think that after they get this 12 playoff system down, they're gonna see what it looked like in probably like 5 years from then. And I think we're gonna like I see like another playoff format coming in, and
hmm
I think that's what some of these conferences are looking at, having their own playoff system put in. Like the smaller universities do. Um, and like I could see the SEC doing that, and then how would you crown a national champion? That's gonna be the question.
man, it's tough, man. It's
Yeah,
it's it's just it's tough. It's tough to this. They should have hold on to the college football format. They should have held on to that just a little bit longer. For me, I think 8 teams would have been best, but now you're in a position now where it's like I don't even know how you would even decide it, because now you have all these top tier teams in one particular conference, and
mhm,
if Oklahoma, let's say, goes they go 10-3, but all their three losses are against Alabama, LSU, and Texas, and they're all and those schools are all top five teams. But then you have somebody from the Big 12, or whatever you want to call them, the Big 8,
yeah,
and what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna put Oklahoma in, which are clearly better than some of those other schools, or pretty much every other school in the Big 12? I don't. It's just this is a tough situation, honestly, and they're gonna have to revamp. They're gonna have to figure out a solution if this does happen. They have to figure out a solution of how to determine the best team in college football, to have a proper, fair college football system while determining who truly is the king of college football. And it's like, as far as everything is, right now, it's like the king, whoever wins the SEC is truly going to be your national champion.
Yeah. To your point, that is true because right now it's like, and that's why, like even Dabo Swinney, he's against the 12 playoff system. 8 would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
Probably kept Texas and Oklahoma in there, but what you could have did for the Big 12 is added more teams in there to make it substantial. That's what you should have did. Allow Boise State. I think back few years back, I think Utah had one that was joined the Big 12 at one time. I'm not sure, but Boise State and BYU would have been perfect for the Big 12, and then all you had to do is win your conference and get into the playoff, and then how they figure it out who's the second or third team, then they could do that like that. But every time you hear on college football, they always bypass the Pac-10 because they ain't strong enough. But you do have like Oregon, USC, and Stanford over there that's really good. But I don't know now what's going to happen if those teams don't play up the part or have a good record.
Yeah, man, and it's just Utah competed for the Pac-12. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Oregon, but man, it's like these other non-Group of 5 power teams. What's going to happen to them? Because again, they might have to. They have no choice but to kind of join these other conferences. But now they have to think about, well, which conference should we join that could push us to, not only for us to get more money, get more financial stability, but gives our team a great shot to compete for a national title. Like what conference can do that? What conference will let us in? Anybody will let Boise State in. Even whether if it's talking about region, people will let Boise State in because of their history, because of their huge brand name. People will even let TCU in if TCU wants to leave because of what Gary Patterson has done for that program over the last 20 years. As far as some of these other conferences, they're not gonna. I don't even know if they're gonna be even allowed to get in. So now they're put. Texas Tech, even though Texas Tech has had a rich history, I don't know if the SEC or if if they want to, if the Big 12 kind of wants to, unless the big, again, like you said before, unless the Big 12 kind of wants to, join with the Pac-12, and maybe they can form something there to have their own kind of super conference. I don't know what's going to happen with these other non-Group of 5, power teams that are good, but they don't have the money making name. They don't have the brand name that can generate a lot of revenue for the conference. And I think that's kind of the fear for the next 3 to 4 to 5 to maybe the next decade, is which team could generate the most money. And unfortunately, again, college football is a system where any team can become good, right? It's not like the NFL where it's a lot harder for you to build up and to establish a winning franchise. Like in college football, anybody can get their shot. And it's very, very unpredictable. We kind of have to, when we have to make predictions and a lot of projections, and then the next year we can have someone that's unranked win the national title, and they might not even have the biggest name. So it looks like we're going to come to a sort of conclusion where whoever has the biggest brand name is simply going to get in our conference, whether if you're good or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's something to continue to watch for. So I think in the coming days, we'll know once they make the announcement for Texas and Oklahoma to join the SEC. Then we'll know which way all these teams are going to be falling.
Oh yeah, because when that announcement happens, man, they're going to be scrambling. Teams are going to be scrambling, and I know that you have a I made a video talking about this with the Texas legislators. They're trying to pass on a bill to kind of block Texas from going, and a lot of you guys really educated me about that hey, they can't do this. This is kind of illegal what they're doing, and this will never ever happen because the Texas governor is from Texas. He's from he went to the University of Texas, so it will never kind of pass through. So you're starting to see a bunch of people. You're starting to already see a bunch of people that's trying to stop this from happening because they know that when this happens, it's gonna change college football forever. Just like the NILs, just like the transfer portal, it's gonna change college football forever. And the type of format that we're gonna get now, we're going to get a AFC, NFC type of conference to potentially determine who our national championship is. Or, worst case scenario, these conferences can form their own leagues. That's what everyone's afraid of. These conferences will form their own leagues, and then they'll determine their own national champion, and then we'll have tons and tons of controversy, controversial debates and topics about. That team won its own Super League, won its title, but that team won its Super National title, and it's going to be weird and confusing. It's going to be fun on my part because that's just more content for me to to kind of create and for us to kind of talk about. But it's bad. I would say it's bad for the sport because we already have this kind of confusion for the casual college football fan is who if North Dakota State wins their national title, FCS, and they've been dominating, but Alabama wins this FBS. It's kind of confusing about who truly is the national title when they're both Division I schools. Even though that for us hardcore fans, we know truly who is the top dog. But that's the direction we're heading in. We're heading in a direction, potentially worst case, that these own leagues can create their own national titles, and that's the worst case, man.
Honestly, I would be all for it, a realignment of the whole country where you have a NFC, AFC type deal, have it in a regular NFL playoff format, and the teams that got put out, you still could even line them up in a bowl game if that's your choice to do. Keep the bowl games. Yeah, the bowl games do generate money. You can still do it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But how many games they already play 12 games, so you either probably cut the season down some to get the bowl games and teams to play in the bowl game, or you had to play the playoff system a little bit sooner. So there's a lot of ways you could do that if they wanted to do that. Just have split them all up. I would go directly in the middle of the country, get rid of all the conference, the major conferences. Say, okay, let the ACC be that top conference. Then you can line everybody up, break it all down, like how they do in the NFL. Same thing on the Midwest and the West side, and then you just have all that realignment going on, and then let it go from there. And then you still, they just have to sit down and put their heads together. But when money's involved, everybody's ego is going gets weird and crazy. So
yeah, man, they're scratching their heads because I can tell you it's gonna happen, people. It's happening that Oklahoma and Texas will be moving to the SEC. It's gonna happen. They now have to really make serious. They have to make backup plan after backup plan after backup plan. They have to make backup options just in case if other teams will join these conferences. Because again, the whole point of the whole playoff 12 system was to try to have a more organized, more structured type of system where you can not only fully support the Power 5 conferences, but you will support the non-Group of 5 power conferences. But now that this bombshell happened, you now have to in a yearly basis, you have to really consider revamping your playoff system every single year. So unless they can come up with a system that is not only fair for your power conferences, but is fair for the other non-Group of 5 power conferences. So if we do have that system, if that's structured, if we have that AFC NFC type structure, where again you have all these different type of regions, and you have you have these different divisions, and if you're gonna determine division winners and maybe get some wild card teams in there. Again, maybe it can work out. Again, there's a lot of college football teams. I know a lot of people are saying, well, how come we just don't go for a NCAA basketball type format where you have 64 teams? Well, if you do that, you're going to have to shorten the schedule. Like, you're really going to have to shorten the schedule.
Yeah.
Conference titles might not even, you might have to do maybe regular season conference championships instead of having an actual conference championship game, because again, football is a way more physical sport than basketball. It's way more physical sport than basketball. So you might, yeah, you might have to have a regular season SEC champion and do something. So honestly, the whole 64 team format is looking more and more promising. Like before, it was like, no, this is never going to happen. If we're going to have a college football playoff system, it's going to be 8 teams. But with all this realignment happening now, you might not have a choice. We're slowly going in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. I see it happening. It might and it's teams just, I think all these teams need to get prepared for it. I did hear Booger McFarland say that after a while, the way everything's going, all these teams is not going to need the NCAA. It's like everybody's going to be doing their own thing, forming their own. Unless the the NCAA comes together and put like a good playoff system together where it's going to benefit everybody, where teams be able to make the playoff. Do it like I said, do it like the NFL, add the extra wild card in there, and then still keep the bowl season intact a little bit. You might not need as many bowl games. You just need a few of them. Get rid of some of the ones that you really don't want, and then just the main ones, and just keep it. And you could probably make one of the bowls the main national championship place every year, or you could switch it like how the NFL does it. Go from city to city.
Yeah, man, and like I would just say this, dude. Like these Power 5 conferences, they don't need the NCAA. I mean, it's already happening right now. It's been happening for years, where these conferences get to do whatever they want to do, and really no one really tells them what to do. The NCAA directors, they don't tell the SEC what to do. Bishop Sankey is doing whatever the hell what Bishop Sankey wants to do. Yeah. They're so damn powerful. They own college football. These Power 5 conferences own college football. So again, if they don't come into an agreement, if these conferences don't come into an agreement about how to surely determine a true national champion, and to for it's fair not only is it fair for themselves, it's fair for the kids, it's fair to the fans. Right? Let's all make money together. They can just say we can be like boxing. Like we can have boxing where we can have all these different type of promotions, all these different type of promotions, and we can separate ourselves, and we can truly break up, sign our own guys, do our own thing, get our own teams, and we can determine our own national championship that way. We're entering the boxing realm. Like, this is scary. It's not like the UFC where Dana White controls all the fighters, and Dana White controls he makes up the divisions, and right, own promotions and own staff and stuff like that, where you can truly determine champions. We're entering the boxing realm where you have so many damn different divisions. You have so many different you have 5-6 division weight champions in one division setting, and you have these different type of promotions where we're not going to get the fights that we want. We're entering the boxing realm for college football.
Exactly. You're right about that, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to see it at any day now. They come out and say, "Oh, Texas and Oklahoma is in the SEC," and then watch everybody start scrambling.
Yeah, Brandon Reese he's just pointing out a comment, man. The SEC they're the bad boys of college football. I gotta agree with that, dude. They really are they're the Detroit Pistons. They're the bad boy Pistons of the SEC. No one tells them what to do. they pretty much do their own crap. And now with Oklahoma and Texas, you're holding a gun to everybody's head. And someone said this earlier, man, because I know you're a Miami fan. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Miami even joins. If they said, you know what, let's join the SEC. Let's join the SEC.
Oh, man, I was thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that all day long. And I was like, man, what if Miami was to move out of the ACC and go and say, hey, I want to go over there where they could get better recruiting. They could,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be on TV all the time, and then, man, I'm gonna tell you, this is so scary right now. This is really scary because just sitting here thinking about it, and then what Clemson, you know what I'm saying? Miami and Clemson leave. I mean, you think the ACC will be, oh my God, it was.
If Miami leaves, Florida State's leaving. Florida State's following suit of Miami leaving because Florida State needs Miami. They need them.
Yeah, they need each other.
They need each other, and and it's not really a crazy thought because again you just said it. Recruiting is the biggest factor. Like if you look at the 24/7 Sports rankings, seven out of the top 10 schools are SEC schools. Matter of fact, every year since dating back to 2012, there's at least 6 SEC schools that are in the top 10. There's at least 11 schools out of the last 10 years. 10 years. You can look it up right now. Out of the last 10 years, the SEC 10 SEC schools at least has been in the top 25 in recruiting every year since 2012. Like Kentucky is having better recruiting numbers than Stanford or even Clemson before Clemson kind of took off the last couple of years. It is the SEC is they're a giant. They're a monster. And if Miami goes to the SEC, it's like, listen, we're in a rich state. A lot of the kids that they're close to, like Northwestern and Miami Carroll City and Miami Central, like Carroll City and Central and Booker T. Washington, like you have all these Miami high schools. The only thing that you're missing out is saying, listen, we're in the SEC, we're generating a lot of revenue, we have one of the best facilities, and we can easily get you to the NFL. I mean, look what conference we're in. We can easily get you to the NFL. So it's kind of like Miami has the entire blueprint now. If they join there with all the revenue that they're receiving, it's not a crazy thought if Miami does decide to just join the SEC.
Yep. I even thought about them going independent.
IMG Academy. I forgot. IMG Academy. All those Florida kids that they're just recruiting for all these Florida schools. Oh man. And then Florida State, they will follow suit. And then can you imagine the Miami, Florida State, Florida annual rivalry that these guys will be playing?
Man.
And the SEC on CBS, which is by the way, CBS is the number one ranked. CBS is the number one generated revenue besides maybe ESPN for college football channels and basketball channels. Exactly. So can you imagine the annual rivalry in the SEC every single year? Oh my goodness gracious. It's just,
you talk about revenue, TV money, and then like even NBC Sports now is trying to get in on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think they going to bid in the next 3 years, when I think around about 24, 25, when the ESPN NBA contract with the ESPN comes up, and they looking to grab the NBA back over there. But just imagine ABC. And then ABC shows, mostly the football games at night because they partner with ESPN. But CBS will have so many games on, it would be so crazy. I mean, it would be hard to just keep up with football, period. I mean, if Miami was to say, you know what, hey, we might as well go over there.
Yes, it's going to damage their program if Clemson or let's just say everyone stays the way that they are, and the ACC doesn't want to adapt and say, okay, we don't want to be a part of this, we don't want to expand. The SEC is going to damage your product. It's going to damage the Miami product.
Yeah.
even more. Because guess where Oklahoma is getting a lot of their players from now? Florida.
Florida.
Oklahoma is going into Florida territory in the recruiting. Texas is
Yeah.
now entering Florida. Well, they've been going into Louisiana, but they're entering Florida territory, especially in that South area, to get
Yeah.
those kids. So it's like these kids, they want to play for the SEC. These Florida kids, they want to go and play for the SEC. That's where they want to go. That's where, if you look at the numbers, the SEC has dethroned that state from every other Florida school. This is
Yeah.
where these kids want to go to. So again, now with Oklahoma and Texas, where all these, Bama versus Oklahoma, LSU versus Texas, Oklahoma versus, even as far as Arkansas playing Texas or Arkansas playing Oklahoma, you already know Jerry Jones. Will welcome Oklahoma in their stadium. You know damn well he's going to welcome Texas in their stadium to play probably on maybe 12 o'clock or maybe even on prime time, because he already does it with A&M. It's just they're gonna have the stadiums. They're gonna have all the primetime games, even though it's gonna be on CBS. They're gonna own it. All the game day will be at all those games. And especially with the the NIL, especially with all these NILs now, where these kids will be getting all these endorsements. They're gonna go to where the money's at, and the money where it's gonna be for the next 3 to 5 years. It's gonna be in the SEC with Oklahoma and Texas.
Man, you gave me something to think about. I might have to do a separate video on what if Miami, Florida State leaves the ACC. The
Oh hell yeah, man, do it.
Like, you gave me the topic on now. So hey, maybe somebody else see that video and then they start running with the idea and they get into mainstream media. And we start a big old controversy.
Oh boy, I'm telling you, man. It's like before it would be like, this is just hypothetical. This is impossible. No, this is not hypothetical anymore. Like, this could actually happen. This stuff could actually happen. We could actually get a lot of these ACC, these other kind of, even as small as TCU. Like, TCU is not that bad of a school, or Texas Tech. They could go ahead and join if they want to, regional wise, makes sense. They can join the SEC if they want to. They'll get accepted. They have they have great wrestling programs. Texas Tech is a basketball powerhouse, so why would the SEC reject that, honestly? It's just, and it's like, yeah, Oklahoma versus Florida, to see that rematch again. It's like the SEC is now the place where a lot of these schools are chasing to be at. Yeah. And it's crazy. And people that kind of deny that, it's just like, no, you're foolish. Because why would Oklahoma want to go to the SEC? Oklahoma, as big of a powerhouse as they've been over the last 20, 30 years, why would they go to the SEC? Because the SEC, it's revenue, it's money, it's recruiting. They know how beneficial it would be for years to come. Texas is going to the SEC for relevance, so that they can be on game days, so that they can have primetime games, so that they can be on ESPN First Take when Stephen A. Smith and Tim Tebow is talking about these college sports. Because when you watch ESPN First Take, they barely talk about Clemson, they barely talk about Ohio State, and the only time they ever do it is during the college football playoff or conference championship games. On a week-to-week basis during the football season, they're talking about SEC schools, man.
Yeah, that's all they talk about. SEC schools, like at Miami was, they're getting back a little bit of relevancy. You know what I'm saying, by recruiting and stuff like that. But just imagine, like Clemson, if they ain't ranked in the top 10 or the top 5 in the polls, they don't even get talked about. You know what I'm saying? And even when Clemson is ranked up in the top 3, top 4, they don't really talk about them as much. They just, like you said, they bypass them. All they talk about, if it ain't Florida, it's Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Texas A&M, all of them, Alabama, the same suspects. It's like, I see the SEC going to a 32-team league. I really do see that. And just by me talking about that Miami, Florida State, I see it coming. Because it's too much money over there, and a lot of these conferences is not going to survive because the SEC is too big and too strong, and the recruiting is too big in these states like Florida, Miami, Florida State. They have a hard time recruiting in their own state. You see, Central Florida have a better recruiting than all 3 of them in that state.
Yep, and Jeremiah made another good point, man. Ohio State, like even when we talk about the Big Ten Conference, the only relevant program over there that carries a huge brand name that generates the most revenue is Ohio State. They've been carrying that conference for years. You don't think that with the SEC, potentially forming its own league that's having all these big brand powerhouses in their conference, you don't think Ohio State's thinking about like, maybe we should really consider maybe going to the SEC or maybe going to some of the, or maybe talking to, or maybe putting pressure on these Big Ten commissioners to form more of a supermax, because we need something here, man, because again, Iowa's not going to get the job done. As good as Wisconsin is, Wisconsin's a really good team. They're not a big money maker. They're not a big money generator, So it's like Notre Dame. Well, they're a big house name.
Yeah.
Maybe you can go and welcome maybe USC, right? USC. You need to get somebody. You need it just can't be Ohio State. I would say Michigan, but Michigan is they're
until Michigan show me something this year, I can't even put them in that conversation.
You can't even put them in the conversation. They're in a relevant football program. I mean, they've been winning, but they haven't been there. They haven't been at that mark. So until they get to that mark, it's just Ohio State there. And as much as Ohio State has been killing Michigan, and I think that's the only thing that will hold them back, it is the rivalry it is the yearly rivalry. If it wasn't for that, Ohio State could potentially consider, because again, you don't want to get left behind. You don't want to get left behind, and as good as a powerhouse that Ohio State has been, nothing lasts forever. And the SEC is ensuring itself right now that Alabama will continue to dominate 15, 20 years from now, that Oklahoma can continue to do its own thing, that Texas has a chance to revive its program, especially with all the SEC benefits. Outside of financial success, you have recruiting, which it truly is their biggest factor. It's recruiting. It's getting these kids to come in by. And one of these kids that are committed to the University of Texas, I forgot what his name was, but one of the kids that was committed, he said he was excited for this because he said he, as a senior, just Texas going into the SEC, it's exciting him. He wants to do that. He wants Texas, like, hey, Texas, please go to the SEC. This would be absolutely amazing. But imagine all the sponsorships. Imagine all the revenue generated in. It's like Ohio's is again. The SEC could form its own super conference, like of 32 teams, and they don't need anybody else. They can just say, "This is our 32 team league. This is our own playoff format. This is our own divisions. Join us or die. You can just join us or you can just go somewhere else."
And then another thing too, if say Ohio State didn't want to come out, then on the Big Ten, just like the Big 12, they do play Pac-12 teams. You could, like, say for instance, the ACC and the SEC, and say that little small conference where the Miami used to be in, they all merged together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12. They all merged together. Then my Notre Dame ain't gonna have no choice but to fall in line anyway, so it don't really matter.
Yeah, they got no choice.
So if you have those three conferences formed together and the ACC and the SEC, all of them formed together, there you have it right there. That could solve a lot right there. But the thing about it is, if all these teams keep jumping ship, like we just discussed earlier, if a Miami or Clemson and Notre Dame and all these teams say, well, you know what, we're going to the SEC, we want to be over there, more money, more revenue, better recruiting, better competition, and then the SEC should start breaking up and start doing their own thing, like having their own national championship. That's going to be more must-watch TV than it is watching some of the other teams that's going to be out there just be playing on a Saturday and just not getting the TV exposure or the national attention like they used to.
Mm-hmm. And the Bishop Sankey hates playing on Saturdays. I don't know if you know this. Bishop Sankey does not like playing on Saturdays. He talks about, let's push it back to Fridays, because again you have high school football going on, but still there's not a lot of competition on Fridays. Saturdays, it's its own thing, but you're competing with other conferences. Again, even though it's the NCAA, it's college football as a whole, these conferences are competing with each other of who can generate the most revenue. The only school that kind of plays primetime games is the Pac-12 on a Friday, but they're the least watched because they're playing at 12 o'clock in the morning. So can you imagine, again, these matchups, these primetime matchups where game day is there and stuff like that on a Friday night, or if they want to push it to Saturday, or if you want to push it to, again, you're competing with the NFL, so not Sunday, but maybe Monday you can push to Monday. Again, it's too much. The SEC at this point at time right now, even with the 16 teams that they're potentially going to have, they have so much power over everybody else that, again, we talk about the Power 5. It's really the Power 1. The SEC has held everybody hostage right now, man.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's, oh boy, it's just crazy that we got something like this, and now we're having these type of conversations about Miami and Florida State potentially joining the SEC. I mean, these were something that we could have done in NCAA 14, and the fact that this could actually potentially happen maybe 5-10 years down the line is insane, man. Oh boy, man. Okay. What's up, Jason Han? How you doing, man? No one cares about the Pac-12. Yeah, no one cares about the Pac-12. Man, the Pac-12, man. I don't know, man. Like, even with as huge a brand as USC is, they've been struggling. They've been struggling. Even with USC has been good with Sam Darnold and those guys, they've been struggling. Oh yeah, this is. It's going to be very fun to watch recruiting. Like, normally I don't really get involved in recruiting that much, Zach. I will say this, though, Zach. It's going to be extremely fun watching recruiting battles now, because now Oklahoma and Texas, they're up to par with A&M now. And not just that, but in the southwest side, you have LSU that loves to come into that Texas territory. So now, again, for an A&M has done extremely well in recruiting. You now have to compete with Oklahoma and Texas now. They're up to par now. They're up there. So, man, I can see why A&M is pissed off, because they've held this standard. A&M joining the SEC was the best thing in their program. It was the best thing they've ever done for their program, because they've had so much money. They've generated billions of dollars. Thanks for that particular thanks because of them joining the SEC, even though they haven't had the most, they haven't had the most successful run in the SEC. They've generated way more money compared to what that they've ever done in the Big 12 Conference. And now that you have to compete with with Oklahoma and Texas again for recruiting, recruiting bragging rights on and off the field, man, it's gonna be scary. Oh yeah, man. I mean, listen. No one watches the ACC network. No one watches the Pac-12 network. The only conference that everybody watches, that everyone tunes into, is the SEC network. People tune in to watch the SEC network, even if their school isn't part of the Pac-12, isn't part of whatever the SEC conference, even if the school's not a part of the SEC conference, because they want to tune into guys and watch Paul Feinbaum, because they want to tune into guys and watch Tim Tebow, or hell, even Emmanuel, they bring in Fox Sports guys on their studio like Joe Klatt sometimes into the SEC network too. So at this point, it's kind of like the Big Ten network is kind of irrelevant. The AC network is, they've tried it. They've had this huge television deal, and it's okay, but no one really watches the ACC network. People watch the SEC network. The biggest names, the biggest journalists, the biggest sports journalists, and when it comes to the representation of college football, are on the SEC network. So it's just, the SEC just has so much power that it's scary. It's scary that we've kind of never thought about this. Like, we knew the SEC was about it, but we really never thought that we could get to this point where they can control everything. And the SEC, if you look at it, think about it, they've been controlling everything for the last 10 years, whether if it's network, recruiting, titles, basketball even. I mean, they're starting to really show up in basketball now. It's amazing, man. Man, NCAA. It's like here's the thing about this, Jeremiah, man, and to everybody else that's kind of wondering about this. The SEC can form its own video game. The SEC might say, "Screw the NCAA. We're gonna form our own video game." They have that power, by the way, guys. They have that right. They have that power. If they want to, they can really form their own video game. So now that you have this entire huge expansion, you can they can have their own video game if they want to. And now that with all this name, image, likeness deals and stuff going on, oh boy, you can literally use that as a recruiting tool to say, hey, you know what? Screw being an NCAA game. Come be in our video game. We generate the most revenue. We destroy the NCAA anyway, so we generate the most revenue. We have the best facilities. We get the most television screen time out of anybody. Hey, come join our video game. You can use that as a recruiting pitch with name, image, and likeness. Oh man. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all, man. I would not be surprised at all if Fox, because Fox has been trying its hardest, and they got some great guys, right? Even, one of our own, because again, he is a YouTube content creator, but he's also a sports journalist, and RJ Young, right? RJ Young joined Fox Sports. Dream come true, and he's become the benchmark of what we've all, as these college football, content creators, of what we've been trying to strive for. But Fox Sports, I mean, they've signed this deal with the Big Ten, with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten network and the Big 12, and they've been doing their own thing, and they've got great guys, but still, compared to CBS alone, they have one conference. CBS has blown Fox out the door out of the last 5 to 6 years because of just Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Georgia, A&M alone. People want to watch those schools. People don't care about the Pac-12 or what they're doing. People don't care anymore. I mean, like I said, there's a few games that they want to watch. There's a few teams that they want to kind of tune into, every single week. But no one really cares about those schools anymore. People care about the SEC now. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fox wants to try to get involved with the SEC, if NBC wants to get involved. Hell, if TBS, and this was a rumor a long time ago, but this could potentially get rejuvenated. TBS and TNT were trying to get involved with the SEC to try to sign to try to sign some type of deal or to try to get involved, and we could potentially see those rumors start to pop up again. Oh yeah, I love the CBS theme song, guys. Love that joint. Do 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 do. But anyway, guys, again, if you guys want to come and chat with me live, you guys are free to do so. You guys can hit the link below the description, or you can just hit the link I just posted in the chat. If you guys want to just come on here and just chat up with your boy. Besides that, though, man, there was a couple other things that happened with recruiting. I know Sean Murphy signed with, he committed to the University of Alabama, which again proves my point again of why Alabama and why the SEC continues to be the powerhouse of all college sports. But it is absolutely insane, guys. It is absolutely insane of what we're witnessing, guys. Texas and Oklahoma joining. And now, again, guys, we can have these conversations. We can have these conversations of Florida State, A&M, not Florida State, not A&M, of course, but Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech, West Virginia. Like, we can have these conversations of these conferences forming their own leagues and separating and separating themselves for the NCAA as a whole. And I know that the people aboard the NCAA are freaking out. I know that these guys are going insane. They're going mad right now. And honestly, I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame them for doing it. Because now you really have to think about what can we do to try to control these conferences, because we can't boss these conferences around, but what can we do to get these conferences to agree with us and to accept our format? And I know this is pissing them off, and this is pissing a lot of the hardcore college football faithfuls out there. Oh yeah, and Brandon, the biggest game that's generated the most money from Fox is Oklahoma versus Texas. That's their biggest moneymaker. That game alone is even bigger than Ohio State versus Michigan when it was on Fox. So now you lose the biggest game that gives you the biggest payday. So what are you gonna do? So what are you gonna do next? What are you gonna do next when that game comes on? Oh boy. The SEC now gets to control one of the top 5 biggest rivalry. Think about this for a second, guys, because this is gonna sound insane. The SEC owns 5 of the top 10 rivalries in all of college sports. They now own 5 of the top 10 college sports. CBS alone, 5 out of the top 10. The Auburn Georgia game, the Iron Bowl game, Oklahoma versus Texas, Texas versus Texas A&M, and Ole Miss Mississippi State. And there's even more. There's probably some more I'm forgetting about, but they own 5 out of the top 10 biggest rivalries in all of college sports on their own network. It's just, oh, Jesus almighty, guys. Ugh. It's yearly, Jeremiah. 2016, that game blew Ohio State versus Michigan blew everybody out the water. But the last 3 to 4 years, Oklahoma and Texas has generated the most, because no one wants to watch Michigan get their ass kicked. 2018 was like the closest. I think 2018 was the closest that they were neck and neck with Texas and Oklahoma, because of the hype that was going into that Michigan-Ohio State game with the entire revenge tour crap that was going on. But after that, it's been Oklahoma and Texas the last couple of years have done a really good job. Fox, when it comes to promoting the game, getting fans to come in. But now, that's over. That's over with now. That is over with. You might have to go back to the game, as they call it. Oh, Clemson! I'm telling you, man. Florida, Georgia. I forgot about Florida, Georgia. That's how I was forgetting. I'm like, dude, how am I forgetting about Florida versus Georgia? Yeah, they got the Big Ten. You got the Pac-12 conference, and if you want, you got the Big 8. You got the Big 8 conference if you want. It's just, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You got the big. They're going to be called the Big 8, or you're just going to have to disband it. You're going to have to disband it. LSU, Alabama, another huge. How the hell did I forget about LSU, Alabama? That's actually my game. I actually think that's a more. I think that's like my rivalry. Like I hate Auburn, but damn it, man. I hate LSU even more. But that's a fun ass game to watch every single year. The amount of hype. How the hell did I forget about that game? So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to retract that statement, guys. 6 or 7 out of the top 10 biggest rivalries in college sports, the SEC owns the rights. CBS owns the rights to them. Florida, LSU, that's another one that you can add onto the pile. Auburn, LSU, A&M, LSU, that's a rivalry. Oh man. Tennessee, Alabama. Man, that's how relevant Tennessee has been. Tennessee, Alabama, another one right there. It's just, oh man. Yeah, man. It's Danny, man. It's this again. It could happen. It could absolutely happen, guys. That right these that A&M. Again, I see why they're mad. I see why they're pissed off. Now again, they kind of the AD came out and said, you know what, we welcome the competition. We're excited for this. But before, they were pissed off about it. They were extremely mad that these teams were going in there. Now again, that could be because again they weren't really notified of the matter. But I think another reason because of that is because if Oklahoma, again, A&M has had an edge over Oklahoma in recruiting a little bit over the last 3 to 4 years because they've used the SEC as a recruiting pitch. You can't use that as a recruiting pitch anymore. You can't do it. You can't just go into you just can't go into the kid's recruiting, go to the kid's house and say to his parents, hey, listen, we're in the SEC. Your kid's going to go to the NFL. We have the best facilities. Now Oklahoma can go up there and say, you know what, why would you go to A&M? Where we've been one of the best programs. We've won the Big 12 6 years in a row. We're constantly in the college football playoffs. We're constantly winning 10 and 11 games. Look how many Heisman Trophy winners we can and Heisman Trophy finalists that we keep on producing. Look at the amount of NFL draft picks that we've produced. Oh, and by the way, we're in the SEC now. So we're gonna get that revenue. So not only do we have the brand name, not only are we now, I mean, we already have the revenue, but we're getting more money on top of it to build our facilities. But now we're getting screen time. We now have the screen time in the primetime games, and we'll have game day come to our campuses more often now because we're in the SEC. That, yeah, your son's going to be on big time games, which is going to give him an advantage over a lot of the other schools that he's going to go to now. So, yeah, the entire SEC pitch that A&M has been using against Texas and Oklahoma for the last 5 to 10, close to 10 years now, that's over with. All right, Jeremiah Dog, have a good day, man. The South, yeah, Georgia, Auburn. Oh yeah, Jawan Jennings, fucking Jawan Jennings, man. When he caught that Hail Mary for Georgia, those fans were sick. Those fans. That's another rivalry I forgot about. Tennessee versus Georgia, another huge rivalry, by the way. If you can add up all these rivalries, they're in the top 25 at least. That's a great point, Brandon. That's a tremendous point. The SEC has way more rivalries that national people care to watch than any other Power 5. Like, that's true. That's a true statement. Like, all these rivalries that are not just played on the last week of November, they're played all throughout the season. That a lot of people care. A lot of people would watch those games than watch a lot of huge marquee other games if they're not involved in the SEC. Like, it's insane how much power and how much influence that the SEC has over everybody else. Like, it truly is the National Football League of college. It's the NFL of college, man. It's the NFL of college for a particular reason. And it's insane, Jason, because when even when LSU has a down year, they're always recruiting the top 5. Their state alone is talented than a lot of the other states all across the U.S. Their state alone is a gold mine, which LSU sits on top of. So LSU is always constantly in the top 5, top 10 in recruiting, and it's just, man, oh man. I'll say this, Jason. I think for a lot of the SEC schools, I think this is only going to help their case in recruiting. Bama and LSU will be fine, but I think this will help. I hate to say it, but this could even help Vanderbilt. This can help. This can help Ole Miss. I think that this will help. South Carolina. I think that this will definitely help a lot of the other conferences because again, you can use Oklahoma and Texas as your recruiting pitch that again you're going to get national marquee television time. You're going to get television time. The brand is only going to get bigger with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC conference. So I think for everybody else that does not join the SEC, I mean, can you imagine? And again, with the name, image, and likeness, with all these player endorsements coming in, a lot of these players, regardless of what team they go in the SEC, they're going to get national sponsorships. They're going to get sponsorships from Nike, from Under Armour, from Adidas, from Puma. These guys are going to get sponsorships, whether it's local or national, simply because the SEC now has become a national brand. It has become the marquee national brand, the representation, the face of all of college football. So I think that this will help out every other team in the SEC besides just Bama and LSU, or the classic marquee powers. Oh yeah, the LSU, no, LSU won't have a problem. Matter of fact, this actually enhances LSU as far as keeping those players in the state of Louisiana. This only enhances their chance because, again, just like how I talked about before, with all this name, image, and likeness, and all these player endorsements stuff, and LSU has way too much stuff. Not just the facilities, not just you can use tradition as a factor. But you have the number 7 number, which again, even that's tradition. That's a tradition. You can, again, whoever wears number 7 is the guy that gets paid. He gets paid attention to the most, and you can use that as a recruiting pitch to get these players. But again, these huge marquee matchups, the facilities, your stadiums, these campuses, LSU, this only enhances their recruiting, not hurt them. Oh, okay, in Texas. Okay. It's man, they got to figure, yeah, they got to figure out who in the hell is going to be playing in the final week, because there's too many rivalry games going on. Whether if you're going to do it, you're just going to take it 1 week at a time, or if you're just going to try to stick to tradition, you got to figure out what rivalry games are going to be played on that last game. If you're just going to just say, you know what, we'll have like maybe 5 or 6, or maybe we'll just 7 teams, or maybe we just go weekly. Right? We got to talk about divisions, because Alabama's been in the West for a long time now, and since since '92, right? The Alabama's been in the SEC West for a long time, but now if we're talking about geography, Alabama's more kind of in the East. Auburn's a little bit more in the East compared to Oklahoma and Texas. They're more close related to the West. So again, it's division realignment. It's what typical rivalry games could be played. Is it going to be left alone, or are we going to particularly change that? That's the fear, Danny. I think that these non-conference games, I think that they're going to be cut off. I think that's not going to be allowed. I truly do believe that with these super conferences, you might not have the time. You might not have the time or the energy to even schedule that, because there's way too many teams and way too many obligations in that particular conference that you're in that you have to try to oblige by. So, again, non-conference matchups, we could honestly see the end of that maybe until maybe bowl time. But in the regular season, that might not be the case. And I also think that this could potentially kill off. This is another reason why I think that this could kill off these non-Power 5 schools, because of these particular matchups, right? These low Division 2, low Division 1 low tier type schools that don't have the best funding in the world, that have to rely on these big time schools. Again, teams like Alabama might not have the time to play a Citadel. They might not have the time anymore, because again, they're obligated to play a team like Oklahoma to fill in that date, compared to playing a Coastal Carolina Citadel team. So those schools, in my opinion, are screwed if, again, we're having more of these Power 5 super conference alignments. Yeah, the LSU Bama rivalry. It's my favorite rivalry, man. I love that rivalry. I think that it's a great rivalry. And again, if we have division realignments where Alabama is in the East now, I mean, yeah, Alabama will play LSU once in a while, but it won't happen as much as we've seen unless they can see the. I mean, again, the Alabama LSU game, it's one of the biggest moneymakers for the SEC. So they may keep that November 3rd or whatever, maybe November 3rd around the 9th. They might keep that around as more as a yearly game. But again, it's up to the SEC of what they want to do with that. The orange that looks like a pumpkin pute. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can have a preseason. I mean, I've always been in favor of having a preseason. I've always been in favor of having a preseason. I think that it would, just to warm up the players, stuff like that. I think that would be cool for them. I know camp doesn't start until like around that August period, that early August period. But hey, maybe have like a little scrimmage that you can post up. Hell, maybe that can be your spring game, right? Maybe competing against these low tier Division I schools competing. That can honestly be your spring game. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's your spring game instead of just having this. I'm using Alabama, but having a crimson versus white or Clemson more kind of that purple, orange or white, whatever they have there. Play against these low tier schools to not only generate income for those particular schools, but to also help out your players since they're also playing against people that are not themselves. I mean, that are not their own teammates. See that again. The SEC, they have a lot to think about. But I would not mind that at all. Again, having Bama Oklahoma matchups, or again having Bama Texas matchups, or LSU versus Oklahoma or Texas matchups, to kind of mix in with the same divisional schools that they've played against. Honestly, I think it'll be pretty cool. No, Bama and LSU is a rivalry. Bama. That's a rivalry game. That's a heated rivalry game, guys. Guys, for those who don't know, I live in Buffalo, New York. We have a section where there's a lot of LSU fans, and we have a section where there's Bama fans. There's a sports bar that every single November, those two fan bases will meet up in that bar, and I'm telling you, fights, arguments, lots of uncensored content happens in that damn bar over there in BF. That's a damn rivalry game. That's a rivalry game, and again, I'm in the East. That's a huge ass rivalry game, and so I can just imagine going to the South. That's a rivalry game for sure. And it's funny as hell too because we actually have an Auburn section here. I don't know why. Buffalo's like a mini SEC over here. Oh, that's what Watertown. That's what's up. We keep the division the same and just throw. Let them become permanent cross-division rivals. Again, I can see that. Again, you might have to, just separate like the tiniest bit about who is going to be on this side, who's going to be on that side. But I wouldn't mind it, honestly. Honestly, I think the whole geographic crap, I think it's overrated, in my opinion. I've never really liked the whole geographic type stuff anyway. I just feel like, hey, if you want to put these schools against each other and put them in one classic division or conference, I would not mind that at all. I wouldn't mind at all if Ohio State joins the SEC. I don't care about geography. I just care about what can produce the best product. And what produces the best product is Ohio State, Bama in a regular season. Is Ohio State, Oklahoma in a regular season. That's what I honestly care about. So, let's not eliminate these rivalries. I would not mind cross division rivals. I don't really care about the geography, but again, let's not destroy these rivalries. Let's enhance these rivalries. Wait, what you mean about the pause, Jason? 11 Louisiana now. Go Tigers. Birmingham, stand up. Oh, no problem, Jordan. No problem, dog. Oh, I haven't watched the SC Network in a while. I watch a little bit of Paul Feinbaum, but I haven't watched I have not watched the SC Network in a little bit. But I will say this. I would definitely say this for these pods. Man, if if we do go into that area where we have like a team A or team B or team C, I did see something on ESPN about that, like team A, team B, team C crap. Yeah, yeah. That's where I kind of heard that from the pod system where you have all these four division teams in each pod area to kind of and then have like your own conference title matchup. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that particular arrangement, but again, you might not have a choice. Again, I mean, we could see the SEC at one point have 32 teams in it. Honestly, like we could have the SEC have as many as 32 teams, and then you might not have a particular choice but to form pods. But it's the fact that we're all having this conversation of how the SEC can be structured, of how college football can be structured, where we can still keep things in order, even though that we know things are changing. We just have to try to adapt our best way so that college football won't be destroyed. We can continue to be the product that we fell in love with, that we grew up with. But the pod system, honestly, it's like whether if I like it or not, it's probably going to happen. It's like the possibility of this stuff happening. It's truly possible now compared to, before it was just a hypothetical. It's something that we could potentially create in NCAA games. But this stuff, even if it's just considered hypothetical, it could happen. This stuff could actually happen in real life. So it's these topics, these debates, it's something that we're going to have to talk about for weeks and weeks until the college football season. It's something, and honestly, I'm excited for this stuff because we're getting more and more news, more and more content, more and more drama, and that's more stuff that honestly us as college football fans can talk about now, man, instead of just having this yearly projection and prediction about what team's going to come on top. So I'm excited to have more discussions talking about this. Oh, you might not have a damn choice about these cupcakes, man. Again, we might not, the era of the first 3 to 4 weeks of college football where there's Alabama versus Blue Mountain State or Alabama versus Toilet University, that stuff is over. I think we're entering an era now where we're seriously going to get the matches that we truly want, instead of having to wait till week 5 or week 6 in order for us to get the exciting Saturday lineup matchups from 12 o'clock all the way to 11 o'clock, Eastern Standard, Central Standard Time or Pacific, whatever you want to call it. I think we're slowly but surely approaching that era. Oh, Bryce Young's making what? he had a deal worth $1 million on the table. Did he accept that deal, Crimson? Did he or is he still is his agents still negotiating? He had a $1 million offer. Oh yeah, freaking. Okay. So he's got the endorsement deal. That's insane. Bryce Young, dude, making $1 million. And you know what? I was arguing with somebody about this earlier about Bryce Young is more valuable than Derrick King. Derrick King's been in the league for a lot longer, but that doesn't mean anything when you are going to the University of Alabama and you're going to be the star quarterback, especially when your past predecessors were first round picks. You're gonna get that moolah. You're gonna get that money. And Bryce Young is right now even if he hasn't played a game, he's the more valuable quarterback right now. Now again, if Trevor Lawrence would have stayed one more year, Trevor Lawrence could have been making, oh God, easily could have been making $5-10 million easily if he would have stayed here in college football for one more year. He probably would have made as much money compared to what he would have made as a rookie quarterback with the Jacksonville Jaguars as the number one pick, even with the signing bonus. Oh, Greg Sankey is king right now, man. Greg Sankey is flexing on everybody. He holds all the cards. He holds all the cards. All these conferences are coming up. They have to come up to him. He doesn't have to. He doesn't. He is the Josh Pat from Late Kick said this best. He is the Jeff Bezos of college football. He is the king. He's the top dog. He's the dude that can go to space right now and still generate $1 billion like Jeff Bezos without having to do anything at all. All the players are coming to him. He didn't ask Oklahoma and Texas to come to the SEC. They asked him. They came to him and put the deal and put the deal on the table. So he truly is the Jeff Bezos of our time. He's the Jeff Bezos of college football. And that's another reason why Bryce Young is more valuable, honestly, than Derrick King, is because I like Derrick King, but let's be honest, when you're the number one quarterback coming out of high school, the most hyped quarterback since Trevor Lawrence, and again, short list, but still, the hypeness that he's been getting for years, that Bryce Young has had ever since he's been at Mater Dei, and now that you're a 5-star quarterback, that it's your turn to be the number one product in college football, yeah, you're more valuable than Derrick King, even if he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years and he's played. Bryce Young is at the brand. He's at the biggest brand in sports right now, arguably, or top 5 arguably right now in sports at the University of Alabama. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for me. I've been streaming for about damn near an hour and a half. But thank you guys so much for joining in the live stream. More videos to come. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Brandon, Jason, Garen, Crimson, appreciate you guys. Danny, I think I called out Jason again. Jeremiah, thank you so much. Jordan, thank you guys so much for stopping by the live stream, man. Appreciate it a lot. Again, I'll probably be back doing more of these live streams. Again, more videos on the way, so tons and tons of topics, tons and tons of discussions, much hypotheticals that we're going to talk about, and I'm excited to talk with you guys about it. So again, anyway, guys, stay tuned for the videos. Stay tuned for potential live streams, because I could potentially be doing more, and I will definitely catch you guys on the flip side. But anyway, guys, JanceSports checking out. Have a good night, because it is 7:14, at least on my time right now. And again, I'll check you guys later. Peace.